Hi, I'm Lynda Hafner. I'm a top producing realtor at ERA Key Realty in Central Massachusetts. I'm hoping to empower you when you are buying and selling your home. Today's topic, we're going to talk about how to negotiate an offer in a seller's market. I've worked with a lot of buyers. I help sell 20 to 30 homes a year, and I've bought homes myself. So I completely understand that the number one goal for you as a buyer is to get the absolute lowest price you possibly can. However, another thing you want to take into consideration is that sometimes if you try to put in an offer that's too low, you actually could end up losing the house. So you have to weigh it out. Which is more important to you in that particular moment and with that particular house? Is it getting the best price, or is it potentially losing a home that you love because you're not willing to come up to the price that perhaps a lot of other buyers are willing to pay? So these are all things that I want you to think about when we are discussing how to negotiate an offer in a seller's market. It's 2020. And we have been in a seller's market for several years now. And if we were in a buyer's market, I would probably change the entire way that I'm going to talk to you about how to not only put in your offer, but also negotiate your offer. So this particular video is really going to be targeted for the seller's market that we are in right now. And in the future, if we switch to a buyer's market, then I will update my video. What does a seller's market mean? A seller's market means that there's a lot fewer homes available for sale to choose from compared to all the buyers who are waiting to hopefully find a home. So when a new listing comes on the market that's move-in ready and really attractive, there's multiple people, generally speaking, who are interested in it, and oftentimes multiple people who are going to want to put in an offer. So as a buyer, it does put you at a little bit of a disadvantage because you end up finding yourself in a situation where you're competing against other offers to get a house that you love. Not ideal, but there's no way around that if you want to buy a house, in this time frame. Now, obviously, it depends on the house. I mean, houses that need a whole bunch of work, that they're really dated, you're not going to see quite as much demand for those. Those houses they may have a little bit of room for negotiation depending on the repairs and things needed. These are for, the move-in ready homes that pretty much most buyers today really want. We all live busy lives. We don't want to necessarily buy a house that has a lot of work to do right from the get-go. I have a lot of buyers who come to me and they say, well, say the asking price is like $250. They're like, well, can we throw in an offer at like $235? And my answer would vary depending on the market. Now, and depending on the condition of the home. So how I would approach this situation and what I want you to hear is that if it's a move-in ready home and we're in a seller's market, the answer would 100% be no. You would have no shot at that house. If it's priced according to the market, which I would check. I mean, I always check the comps for the home of similar homes that have sold to make sure that the home is priced correctly. If it's way overpriced, then yes, maybe. But in general, what I find being out in that market day to day is that any seller in this market who has a move-in ready house and it's priced pretty accurately for the market, they're not going to accept, they really want full price. And they won't even consider anything 10 grand or under the asking price if you're 300 or under. That's just a general rule of thumb. I don't want to say, this isn't true 100% of the time. Obviously, there's tons of exceptions to this. This is just to give you a brief overview of what you're going to find when you get out there and what to expect. I actually struggle telling my buyers that, no, I'm sorry, but if you try to go in at that offer, there's probably very little chance that you will have it accepted, or even could possibly insult the sellers. Sellers have a lot of feelings about the homes that they own. So you really can't just throw out a lowball offer and expect not to get resistance from a seller who's put a lot of time and energy into their home and have lots of memories that you may not share. There's a lot of emotions involved in this. So in this seller's market, putting in a lowball offer and it is just not going to work. If you are buying a rehab property, or if you are getting a short sale property or that type of a situation where the bank is involved, then yes, that's a whole different ballgame. That's a whole different, completely different situation than what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the move-in ready, home that most buyers are most interested in. One of the things I do for my buyers when they say they want to put in a lower offer is, rather than just writing the offer up, I say, well, let's open up some communication. I'll reach out to the list agent and communicate with them and say, hey, what is the situation with this home? What is the situation with this seller? Are they in a rush to sell? Are they just kind of putting out feelers to see if they can get the highest price and then maybe not sell their home if they don't get the price that they want? I mean, every home is unique and every seller is unique. And because I have a lot of experience in the market, I know that it's really important to reach out to that list agent. So make sure that if you aren't working with me, that you have a realtor who is going to do that, and find out whether there is some wiggle room. Some realtors won't tell you, some will. It's worth a shot to reach out and get as much information as you can before you actually write the offer. Once you know what the seller's position is and get as much information as you can, then it's up to you, your realtor, and a market evaluation of what you think the value is to write the offer up. And in this market, again, it varies greatly on the house, and I would just say that your realtor is your absolute 100% best resource to tell you, price-wise, what is a good range to put in. And then, it also depends on how badly do you want the house? How much risk are you willing to take with your offer? Are you 100% in on this house and no question? Then you might want to immediately go over asking, because that would get a little bit. That would guarantee you a much better shot at walking away with that home. If it's a house that you like it, but it's not perfect, it doesn't have the garage you want, it doesn't have this that you want, in that situation, it might be worth putting in a little bit of a lower offer and then negotiating up. But no matter what, you might want to, unless you go in right at asking price or over, most offers that are under the asking price do tend to get a counter offer. So I want you to go in with the attitude to expect that and not be surprised if that happens. Another thing that is somewhat unique about being in this seller's market that we are in is that, again, if it's a home that you really want, it is probably best not to be asking for a whole bunch of extras. Like, don't be saying, well, I'll give you this price, but I want your swing set, I want your, patio set, and all these extras. If you're not in a competitive situation, maybe, you could try for that, and they can always say no. But if you're in a multiple offer situation, you want to make your offer as appealing as possible and stick to the basics of the actual home. That's going to be the quickest way to get the home that you want. So that would be my recommendation. One of the things that I suggest to my clients who are putting in an offer in a very competitive situation, when it's a house that they absolutely love, they've been looking for a long time, they really, really want this house, then one of the things I think has been very successful for me and my clients is what is called an escalation clause. So an escalation clause, it's a little risky, but I try to present it in a way to minimize as much risk as possible. Let me explain what it is. When you put in your offer, you put in a price, but then what you do is you add an escalation clause to the contract to purchase that basically says that the original price is the price you're willing to pay. However, if another buyer puts in an offer equal or better to the offer that you're submitting, you are willing to pay an additional, usually $1,000 or $2,000 higher than the offer of the highest bidder over you, up to a certain point. So basically, let me just simplify it. Say a house is at $250. All right, you're putting in an offer at $250, but you don't want to lose this house. There's just no way you want to lose it, and you're willing to pay a little extra to get it. So you put a cap on that of, say, well, I'll pay up to $258. Okay, so what you do in that situation is you say that you'll pay $2,000 more than any other offer that is competing against yours, up to a cap of the $258. However, what I do in these escalation clauses to protect the buyer is that you have to show proof of any other offer that would warrant the escalation clause's use. And two, I always kind of include that my escalation clause needs to remain anonymous. In other words, I do not allow it to be, it needs to be non-released information to other buyers. This technique has been very successful. Not 100%, but I would say 85 to 90% of the offers that I've used an escalation clause, my client has walked away with that. And I kind of hate revealing the secret, but you know, it's just gives you a little bit of an edge. But of course, you have to be willing to pay that price. And you have to know if you're willing to do that or not. And a lot of buyers aren't. And I get that. I totally get it. Every situation is different, and you need to figure out whether that is something that you're comfortable with and something that would work for you. You know, like I said, every situation is different. So you need to figure out whether it would be something you would want to implement. But it's a tool. It's a great tool, and it is a great negotiation tool when you're in a seller's market. You can count on your buyer agent to try to get the best offer possible for you in the market. As long as they're an experienced, knowledgeable realtor, you can count on them and trust them that they are going to have your back, and they're going to try and get you the best offer possible, but at the same time, not at the risk of losing the house. And sometimes that's a really fine line, and you don't always know. And which is why having the experience is so important. So take all this into consideration. So it's important that you just understand that because we are in a seller's market, you may have to pay a little bit more than you would in a buyer's market. It's just the way the situation is right now. It's unfortunate, but if you have to move and if you need to buy a house, it's good to be at least aware of the situation. If you have the right realtor who has your back, you will eventually end up with a house that you love. So keep the faith. It may not be the very first house that you put in an offer on, but you will walk away with your dream home, even in a seller's market. It is possible. Hang in there. I hope these tips were helpful. And anytime I can help with any questions, please reach out to me.